Morning, everyone. Last night I had to announce on behalf of the National Cabinet some very difficult changes that we have asked Australians to make, and in many cases in relation to the operation of businesses, some very difficult changes, which means that they will need to close their doors, and that also means that their staff will no longer be able to turn up to work and have employment. These are very difficult changes that we're asking Australians to make. I want to assure all Australians again that these decisions are not being made by Premiers and Chief Ministers and myself lightly. We are very mindful of the impact. We are also very mindful that you're receiving a lot of information, and we are moving as quickly as we can, but also seeking to be understanding of the need for Australians to be able to absorb this information and make the changes in their daily lives, and to talk to their family and friends and their employers and others about that. So this is a time of significant change, and I want to thank all Australians for the spirit in which they're receiving this information and working hard to ensure that they can adapt that to their daily routines and their daily lives. I've said all throughout this that there will be many months ahead of this, and we are seeking to do things that are sustainable, so we can keep doing them, not just now, not just for a week or two, that we keep doing them month after month after month to ensure that we can all get through this together. So again, I want to thank the Premiers and Chief Ministers who have all been out this morning and been providing further explanation to the points and announcements that I made last night. We are very conscious of the great cost of these measures and the impact on the daily lives of Australians, and we are there with you, and we will continue to be, to explain these as best as we can, and the states and territories will be seeking to do everything they can to ensure they're followed, because we do these things, we save lives. We do these things, we can save more livelihoods. We do these things and it sets us up even better to get on this bridge to the other side of the recovery and to be able to make sure that that's as strong as it possibly can be. Now, National Cabinet is meeting again this evening. It is meeting to pick up on the items that we were unable to get to last night. I am not planning at this point to be holding any media conference this evening after that meeting, as it is largely dealing with matters that are in process, are in train. And so tonight it is not our intention to be making any further announcements about those types of issues that we addressed last night. It was a very lengthy discussion, as you can imagine, and we thought it was important that we break the meeting to ensure that I could convey the decisions on those important behavioural changes, and particularly the issues of a closure of premises in all of the categories that I announced. There are many challenges we are facing now, which we've already discussed, but there are going to be many more, and some of them yet haven't even revealed themselves as to what the nature of those challenges are going to be. What, as a government, we've been seeking to do is put in place the right advice, the right structures, the right disciplines, the right processes to ensure that we can make the best possible decisions that can stick and will ensure that we can best manage this crisis, as I described it last night, a twin crisis. A crisis on a health front, which is also causing a crisis in the economy as well, and both of them can be equally as deadly, both in terms of the lives of Australians and their livelihoods. The purpose is to have these structures enable us to save lives and livelihoods, to cushion the impact, to build a bridge to the other side, and get everyone across that bridge together. The National Security Committee Taskforce on COVID-19, which meets very regularly to make decisions about what the federal government needs to do. For example, the ban on people travelling overseas, which will be in place, as I understand, by midday today. The National Cabinet, Premiers, Chief Ministers, doing all they can to work together like we have never ever seen before with states and territories. And sure, there may be the odd time where there might be a bit of difference at the edge, but I can tell you in my entire working life in public life, I have never seen the states and territories work together like they are working together right now, and I thank them for that. The National Cabinet is an essential gathering, and it is all of our preference to keep that consistency and common action together as much as is possible. But we also need to recognise that in some places, states and territories are in different situations to other parts of the country. A very good example of that is the Northern Territory. It is a very unique set of circumstances in the Northern Territory, particularly as it relates to remote communities, Indigenous communities. So while we seek to get consistency across the country, there will always be exceptions or differences based on those circumstances in those states and territories. It is the panel of medical experts, doctors who work in public health in all the states and territories and the Commonwealth, who are providing the expert medical advice together to the National Cabinet and to our respective governments. But there is another area, and I'm joined by Nev Power here today, Nev Power, as we know, that we believe needs greater coordination. And that's why today I'm announcing the establishment of a National COVID-19 Coordination Commission. That commission's job, put simply, is to solve problems. Problems that require the private sector working together with the private sector. CEOs to talk to CEOs and to be engaged with by CEOs to ensure that the private-to-private effort is there solving problems in the national interest and it's being mobilised. It's about the private sector working together with the public sector. It's about better coordinating the efforts that are happening within the public sector. And to do that, we have been operating with what has been called the National Coordinating Mechanism, but that is essentially being done by governments, between governments at a state and federal level. Whether it's repurposing manufacturing lines, whether it's retasking workforces, that one day were taking calls for travel companies, now taking calls at Centrelink, and ensuring that we're repurposing the workforce effort. There will be many other problems that need to solve. And Nev Power I have appointed as Executive Chairman of that Commission to help us solve those problems and work through them with all arms of government, right across government, working with states and territories, some of whom have also put in place similar arrangements to ensure we can get these problems sorted, whether it's ensuring we get food to supermarkets and we ensure the supply lines remain open there, and the trucks can roll out when they need to roll out, and we have enough of them to do that job at all the right times. These are the many challenges that we need to face. Now, Nev Power was the former head of the Fortescue Minerals Group. He has a great experience in doing just this task. If you're working in the mining sector, you need to know how to solve problems, and big ones. There are only big issues in the mineral sector. And it's great that Neville, when I rang him the other day, I simply said, Nev, I need you to serve your country. And he quickly responded. In the same way that the Commissioner of our Bushfire Recovery Agency, AJ Colvin, asked him the same question. I need you to serve your country, and he stepped up. And that's what Nev has agreed to do in leading this new commission. There will be a board that will be appointed, and we already have sitting on that board a number of eminent Australians who will be working with Nev to help guide this problem-solving task, and there'll be others who will be added to this board. The other members of this board are Greg Combay, Jane Holton, who formerly, Greg Combay, everyone will know, I think, quite well. Jane Holton, I'm sure many of you know, but she now sits on a number of boards outside. She has previously served extensively within the Australian Public Service and in her last role as the head of the Finance Department. Mr Paul Little, who used to head up Toll and has a great understanding of how to deal with the many logistical issues that will be present as we go forward. Catherine Tanner, who heads up Energy Australia. Kath also sits on the Reserve Bank of Australia board and is very experienced in the energy sector, but also has a very good handle on what's happening in the financial sector as well. And the Deputy Chair of the organisation will be Mr David Thodey. David also heads up as Chair of the CSIRO, but of course as former head of Telstra, and a deep corporate experience means that together they will be able to reach out and into corporate Australia to solve problems on behalf of the nation, working together with the states and territories. Now, the board will be joined by Phil Gaetjens as the Secretary of Prime Minister and Cabinet, and the Secretary of the Home Affairs Department, Mike Pizzullo, who is currently running the National Coordinating Mechanism. That will continue to function, and it will plug straight into this new commission to ensure we're getting the advice. They will come to us and say, Prime Minister, we need to do this. We need you to authorise this. We recommend that you take this action to get these problems sorted. And so I want to give Australians confidence that we've got the best people in this country working to solve the problems and the challenges that are going to confront us so we all get through to the other side. And I want to thank you, Nev, for taking on this role, and all of the other members of the Commission's board, and all of those who are going to be working with them, and will be making further appointments, particularly in the not-for-profit sector, to see how we can mobilise that effort as well. Before I throw to Nev to make a number of comments, and we can take a few questions today, we had a lot of questions last night, and we have a fairly busy agenda today. I also need to note another decision that we confirmed this morning amongst the Premiers and Chief Ministers, and that is that the National Cabinet has endorsed the advice of the medical expert panel, the AHPPC, that from today, midnight, the 25th of March, until further notice, all elective surgery other than Category 1 and urgent, I stress very urgent Category 2 cases will be suspended. This will apply in both the public and the private hospital systems. Cancellation of elective surgery will allow the preservation of resources, including personal protective equipment, and allow health services, private and public, to prepare for their role in the COVID-19 outbreak. Now, this had already largely been implemented for Category 1 and Category 2, and what this means is a further scaling back of those elective surgeries in Category 2. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Nev, and then we can take some further questions.